This video has been developed to provide information on the correct use of the Safe T Stopper tool on 3/4 inch to 2-inch pipe tees, homemade or manufactured, which are welded onto steel mains. This technology enables gas-free renewal or abandonment procedures on live gas services. This video is not intended to replace formal training. It is merely meant as a refresher. There are many different styles and variations of tees that have been installed in the ground over the years. The Safe T Stopper contains assemblies and adapters that are capable of handling specific tee types. Additionally, when tees are uncovered, their structural integrity varies. It is the operator's responsibility to use the proper adapters and judge the condition of the tee before attempting the operation. Please note, do not operate above the pressure rating or on severely corroded tees. Be sure to review the manufacturer's operating instructions before using the Safe T Stopper. Prior to setup, physically inspect and clean the tool along with its accessories. Look for worn parts, loose bolts or nuts, damaged O-rings, etc. Always remember to wear your approved personal protective equipment while using the Safe T Stopper. Clean the area of the tee down to bare metal where the packing seals, half collars, cap housing, platform, and chains will be positioned. Remove all corrosion and scale so that the rubber packing seals will seal properly. Make sure all the scale is completely removed and the integrity of the surface is intact. It is strongly suggested that you clear a minimum of 6 inches under the main to allow for proper placement of the chains after cleaning the fitting. Failure to carry out this step may allow the tool assembly to move and gas to escape. Before mounting the Safe T Stopper, ensure the cap removal adapter fits properly over the service tee cap. Some hand filing or grinding may be necessary to remove the manufacturer's stamping or casting ridges. Loosen the cap to break the initial seal. Take care not to round off the raised castings located on the cap. If the cap cannot be loosened, then do not attempt the Safe T Stopper operation. Make sure to have all the components when starting the operation. Select the correct size packing seals, half collars, cap removal adapter, and cap housing that corresponds to the tee size. Also, choose the correct size annular cutter bit and self-tapping plug to the desired main hole size. Please take note that 3/4 inch and 1.5 inch tees require a reducer ring. Use a rubber packing seal with the beveled edge facing down for these sizes only. Take a firm two-handed grip on one packing seal and stretch it over the service tee cap. The first packing seal must be installed with the bevel facing downward. Repeat with the second packing seal on 1 inch, 1.25 inch, or 2 inch tees and fit the bevel facing upwards. When the packing seals are over the cap, pull the seals under the cap. Place the 2 packing retainer half collars under the packing seals with the beveled edges upward and the collar cut away over the service tee branch. Make sure the 2 half collar edges come together or they will not fit up inside the cap housing. Place the cap housing over the tee and half collars. Make sure the threaded studs are fitted through the slots in the half collars. Push the half collars up inside the cap housing until they touch the packing seals. At this time, finger tighten the assembly with the supplied nuts. Please note, in some cases, on homemade tees, the branch outlet location is very close to the bottom edge of the cap, making it difficult to fit. If filing is unsuccessful, one packing seal with the beveled edge facing down may be used. The round edge of the seal needs to match the round groove of the half collars. A successful leak test must be carried out prior to completing the operation. If pressure does not hold, or the assembly cannot adequately be secured, then the Safe T Stopper operation should not be attempted. Fit the drill platform cap adapter onto the cap housing. Tighten using the round bar wrench until moderate resistance is felt and the O-ring located on the cap housing compresses. Do not over-tighten. Remove the pin from the dial-a-main plate and rotate it until the bottom matches the curvature of the main size. Then refit the pin on each side of the drill platform base to secure the plate. For a 12-inch main, remove the dial-a-main plates and center pin completely. Loosen the pipe tee swivel until 2 to 3 threads are engaged within the drill platform. Then fit the drill platform over the tee. Make sure both platform legs are in contact with the pipe. Turn the pipe T-swivel clockwise until the brass ring sits against the stepped edge on the drill platform cap adapter. Then turn the pipe T-swivel counterclockwise one full turn. Push the chain bolts through the holes and add the washers. Screw the nuts to one thread only by hand. Install the other ends of the chains by engaging each chain pin into the two slots. Tighten the chains equally and alternately using the short wrench. Do not completely tighten one chain before tightening the other, and remember to only use the provided short wrench. Important: when securing the platform with the chains, continue to centralize the platform over the T. Failure to do this will make it difficult to complete the safety stopper operation. Tap the chains lightly with a hammer to ensure that all links lie flat against the pipe in case you missed some debris when preparing the main. Retighten the chains, making sure you use the 9/16" wrench around the closest link to the eye bolt to prevent the chain twisting. Do not over-tighten. Check the condition of the chains frequently and lubricate with a light oil to prevent rusting. Occasionally clean with a wire brush. Safety tip: never stand on the platform to use as a step when climbing out of the excavation. You may damage the platform or cause it to slip around the pipe. Fully tighten the cap housing nuts equally and alternately using the 9/16" wrench until noticeable resistance is felt. Do not completely tighten one nut before tightening the other. Fit and tighten the ball valve until it compresses the O-ring located at the bottom of the threads on the drill platform cap adapter. Open and close the ball valve to ensure proper operation. Recheck the assembly and make sure it is centralized over the T. Loosen and retighten chains if necessary. Fit and tighten the viewport onto the ball valve and leak test the entire assembly. If necessary, slowly tighten the cap housing nuts until a seal is achieved. When the leak test is complete, open the gauge relief valve to release air and remove the pressure test assembly. Close the bleeder valve. Now you are ready to remove the cap. To remove the cap from the T, use the T-handle assembly fitted with the correct sized cap removal adapter. Make sure this cap has been loosened to break the initial seal. Important: before starting the operation, thoroughly clean the T-handle shaft and lubricate the entire shaft. Move the housing up and down the shaft multiple times until little friction is felt. Wipe off any excess lubricant. Also, clean and re-lubricate the shaft prior to returning the part to toolbox storage. To remove the cap, fit the cap removal adapter onto the T-handle assembly shaft by lining up the shaft dimple with the grub screw. Tighten with the hex wrench. Do not over-tighten. Tension the cap removal adapter friction brake with the 3/16 hex wrench until slight resistance is felt when moving the shaft upwards or downwards. When the tool is under pressure, the brake will slow the shaft's movement. Adjust the brake as necessary when under pressure. Fit and tighten the cap removal adapter onto the ball valve by hand so that it compresses the O-ring located at the top of the threads on the T-handle assembly housing. Push down and turn the T-handle until the keyways engage onto the raised castings located on the cap. Make sure the bleeder valve is in the closed position. With a firm grip, begin to loosen the cap. Make sure to keep slight downward pressure on the T-handle to prevent the gas pressure from pushing the shaft up unexpectedly. When the cap is felt or heard skipping over the threads of the T, the cap is fully removed from the T. Retract the T-handle with the captured cap to above the ball valve. Close the ball valve and bleed off the excess gas using the chrome-plated bleeder valve. Remove the T-handle assembly. Install the viewport. Use a flashlight and look through the viewport to make sure there are no obstructions within the T. Note: the tool is capable of inserting a self-tapping plug into the main hole or rubber expansion plug below the branch to stop the flow of gas. If the main hole looks like it has been machine drilled and centralized within the T, it will not require over-drilling. However, if it is a burn hole, over-drilling will be required. Position the safety stopper drilling machine on its side and turn the feed wheel counterclockwise until the tip of the annular cutter bit extends 4 inches beyond the edge of the threads. If over drilling 1 inch and greater tees, fit the stepped drill guide onto the shaft. Then fit the retaining O-ring. Liberally apply cutting paste to the annular cutter bit. Turn the feed wheel clockwise to fully retract the cutter into the housing. Set the travel gauge tool to measure the amount of travel needed for the tip of the annular cutter to touch the top of the main. Place the bar on top of the lip edge of the ball valve. The shaft bottom must touch the 12 o'clock position on the main. Level the bar on the high side of the ball valve and secure the bar with the thumb screw. Transfer the travel measurement onto the safety stopper drilling machine. Place the drill on a flat surface with the single shaft facing down. Line up the top edge of the bar on the travel gauge tool so it is flush against the underside of the feed wheel block. Make sure the travel gauge shaft is parallel with the drill's support shaft. Match the shaft collar to the bottom of the shaft and secure with the hex wrench. Place the ruler underneath the fastened shaft collar and slide the second shaft collar until it touches the bottom of the ruler and tighten. Note, the ruler is 3/4 of an inch wide. If the ruler is missing, position the second collar 3/4 of an inch below the fastened collar. The collar is a safety feature to prevent accidentally drilling through the main. Fit and tighten the safety stopper drilling machine onto the ball valve by hand so it compresses the O-ring located at the top of the threads. Open the ball valve and attach the power drive fitted with a 1/2 inch deep socket to operate the feed wheel counterclockwise. Lower the drill shaft until the brass bushing is about 1/8 of an inch away from the shaft collar. Loosen the shaft collar and slide it down so it rests on the bottom block. Remove the power drive and continue to turn the feed wheel counterclockwise by hand until the drill bit stops and it is felt touching the top of the main. Then back off 1/4 turn clockwise. Note, many times the existing hole in the main has raised edges or overweld, making the cutting surface irregular. It is important to manually cut a circular groove into the pipe before drilling under power and cutting through the pipe. Fit a socket wrench with a 1/2 inch deep socket onto the drill shaft hex. Begin manually drilling the hole into the main by slowly turning the feed wheel counterclockwise while turning the drill shaft clockwise. Turn the feed wheel to apply slight downward force only when cutting. Continue to drill manually until the drill bit is felt easily cutting. Then stop and bring the drill shaft up slightly by turning the feed wheel 1/4 turn clockwise. Install the air power drive to operate in a clockwise direction and fit a 1/2 inch deep socket. Depress and hold the power drive trigger and slowly turn the feed wheel counterclockwise to begin cutting. Safety tip: hold the power drive with one hand so that it will be pulling away from you under load. If the cutter jams, the power drive will be pulled from your grasp and will stop automatically as your fingers are released from the trigger. If operated towards you, it may swing around and hit you before you can release the trigger. Continue to turn the feed wheel down slowly without putting too much load on the annular cutter. This would be noticed by a reduction in speed and change in pitch of the air motor. A sudden increase in speed, reduction of load, and higher pitch note of the air motor indicates that the annular cutter is through the pipe. Release the trigger and remove the power drive from the drill shaft hex. Manually turn the feed wheel clockwise and retract the drill bit out of the pipe. Once you feel little resistance, place the power drive onto the feed wheel hex to operate clockwise to raise the drill shaft to above the ball valve using the power drive. When the top edge of the movable block is about 1/16 of an inch away from the underside of the top block, the annular cutter is above the ball valve. Close the ball valve and bleed off the excess gas. Remove the drill assembly. Attach the swarf magnet onto the expansion plug tool. Tighten the collar on the shaft and push down to lower the magnet. Do not touch the small T-handle during the procedure as it may accidentally dislodge the magnet from the shaft. Simply push and turn the magnet attachment onto the bottom of the shaft. Open the ball valve and slowly push the shaft down to the edge of the knurled section. Then slowly retract the swarf magnet into the housing. Close the ball valve, bleed off the excess gas, and remove the assembly. Fit the viewport and check to see if the hole was successfully drilled. Close the ball valve, bleed off the excess gas, and remove the viewport. Remove the T-handle from the housing and fit the hex adapter in its place. Push the hex end from inside the housing. Choose the correct size self-tapping plug. Roll a small length of thread seal into a worm and push it uniformly into the threads of the self-tapping plug. Then tightly wrap 1 to 2 revolutions of thread sealant tape around the plug. Push to fit the self-tapping plug into the hex adapter. Fully retract the hex adapter into the housing and fasten the assembly onto the ball valve. Fit a socket wrench with a 5/8 socket onto the hex adapter, then open the ball valve. Push the shaft down with 2 hands until the plug enters the hole. There will be a positive stop. Maintain downward pressure and turn the hex adapter clockwise to tighten the plug into the main hole. The plug will cut its own threads. When moderate resistance is felt, open the bleed valve. Continue to tighten until the sound of blowing gas is no longer heard. This means the gas has fully stopped. Do not over-tighten. Retract the hex adapter to above the ball valve and close. Fit the viewport to visually check the self-tapping plug has been properly inserted. If the self-tapping plug is properly inserted, the operation is complete. Renewal or abandonment operations can be completed according to company procedures, and safety stopper assembly removed. The safety stopper can also insert a rubber stopper below the service branch to stop the flow of gas. Choose the correct size expander plug and fasten to the bayonet mount expansion plug insertion removal assembly. Important: before starting the operation, thoroughly clean the expansion plug insertion removal assembly shaft and apply the recommended lubricant to the entire shaft. Move the housing up and down the shaft multiple times until little friction is felt. Wipe off any excess lubricant. Also, clean and re-lubricate the shaft prior to returning the part to the toolbox. To attach the expansion plug onto the shaft to expand the plug below the branch of the T, hold the expansion plug with one hand and with the other hand hold the end of the shaft. Push the stem end of the expansion plug into the hole inside the shaft and turn the shaft counterclockwise so the expansion plug pin engages the offset slot. Gently turn the small T-handle clockwise until you hear it click. This indicates that the small pin inside the shaft fully engages the dimple on the expansion plug and will expand the plug when turning the small T-handle clockwise. Measure the travel needed to expand the expansion plug below the service branch by lining up the lip edge of the expansion plug insertion tool housing with the lip edge of the ball valve. It is helpful to place a ruler flat on the top of the ball valve to reference the edge of the ball valve. Push to extend the shaft so the top washer of the plug is below the branch outlet. Make sure to keep the shaft straight. Tip: if the rubber expansion plug is larger than the main hole, then you do not need to measure the travel for expanding the expansion plug, nor will you need to tighten the collar on the shaft for necessary travel. Simply attach assembly and push down until you feel a positive stop. Then expand the plug. Tighten the collar on the shaft to reference the necessary travel. Fully retract the shaft and fasten the assembly onto the ball valve. Make sure the bleeder valve is in the closed position. Hold the shaft in the fully retracted position with one hand and slowly open the ball valve, taking care to prevent the shaft from moving upwards unexpectedly. Push the shaft down to the collar. Simultaneously hold the shaft into position and turn the small T-handle clockwise with 2 fingers to expand the plug. Tighten until noticeable resistance is felt. Do not over-tighten. To detach the plug from the shaft, pull up on the small T. Push down slightly and turn the shaft clockwise to release the plug from the shaft. Pull up until the shaft is above the ball valve. Note: in the unlikely event that the expansion plug falls in the T, use the magnet attachment to remove the plug. Open the bleeder valve. If necessary, continue turning clockwise to expand the expansion plug until gas is stopped. Once the sound of blowing gas stops, the service has been successfully stopped. If the expansion plug needs to be removed after it has been expanded while it is in the throat of the T, follow these steps. Fasten the plug removal insertion tool assembly onto the ball valve. Tighten the collar on the shaft using the hex wrench near the knurled area of the shaft. By doing this, it will make it easier to push down on the shaft. Gently push down until the shaft is felt over the threaded stem of the expansion plug. Simultaneously push down on the shaft and turn the shaft clockwise so the side pin on the expansion plug is captured within the shaft's offset keyway. Gently pull up on the shaft to verify pin is engaged. Hold the shaft position and turn the small T-handle counterclockwise until a click is felt. Do not turn the small T-handle until the expansion plug pin is fully engaged within the offset slot. Continue to turn the small T-handle counterclockwise while gently pulling up on the shaft until the plug releases from the throat of the T. Retract the shaft to above the ball valve. Close the ball valve and bleed off excess gas. If the plug needs to be reinserted, use a new expansion plug. The operation is now finished, and the safety stopper assembly can be removed. Renewal or abandonment operations may be completed according to company procedures.